Going on? Yeah, we're coming.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Welcome to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Tuesday, of course. Kevin Brockway joined me, and that was Kevin singing, not me, as we came in there, so know that. Jim Coyle with you as always. Welcome aboard, however you're listening to us, whether it's on YouTube, on radio, podcast, is just a myriad of different ways to find us, but we appreciate you all the same. Lots to talk about today. Craig McDermott. Creighton's McDermott is back. Les Miles is not. Tom Allen is back big. Elon with a big upset. So Big Ten tournament starts tomorrow. Lots to get to. Kevin Brockway, how are you doing, man?
Good morning. Yes. A magical week, obviously, with all these conference tournaments. Always fun. Like I said last week, doing that Jerome pick, following these smaller conferences and, the MAC and rooting for, San Diego State, the Jackrabbits, who lost last night to Oral Roberts. Very frustrating loss there. But I've gotten a few right so far. Some of the obvious ones: Liberty, Winthrop, Loyola Chicago winning the Mo Valley and Loyola Chicago. I mean, this is another team that remember a couple of years ago they made that Final Four on Sister Jean. I mean, if you look at their KenPom numbers, 10 in the country. I mean, that's a sleeper team you're talking about possibly, next week going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, let's see if they are or not. Hopefully so. There's always one or two of those around. But it's going to be interesting to see how that breaks out this year. I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of different storylines, the Big 12, the Big 10, Gonzaga. Who's the dark horse? Who's somebody outside of the Big 10, Big 12, and Gonzaga that we really haven't talked about? Is there anybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. Florida State, Alabama, maybe in the SEC, Florida State in the ACC. Those are two teams that I think are capable of maybe making a run, deep or a Final Four run, I would say.
I see them.
Arkansas even is a very hot team right now. And don't forget, sometimes that, Big Ten is a tremendously skilled conference, don't get me wrong. And the Big 12 is up and down and stuff, but sometimes the athleticism of conferences like the SEC and the ACC play well in the tournament. I've seen it, and I've seen from the SEC a lot of teams that are very athletic and not very skilled, but they tend to come together in March, and the skill meets the athleticism a little bit, and they make runs. I mean, I saw that with Florida for many years. Kentucky's teams. I saw that. I've seen, Tennessee, South Carolina made a run to the Final Four one year, LSU. So, I wouldn't completely discount, a team from the SEC like Alabama or Arkansas capable of making a run.
You mentioned Arkansas, and of course, a key component, if not their star that they've been relying on, is Justin Smith. The transfer from Indiana, who, while at Indiana was considered a cancer, a problem. And, down there, he's done exactly what Eric Musselman has asked. He's only put up 8 3-point shots this entire season, I think. I saw some numbers on him. He's shooting – his 2-point shooting percentage is astronomical.
Well,
astronomical. I mean, he is shooting at such a – I'm talking 60%. It's crazy.
Well, Musselman, Arkansas, they play 4 out, 1 in, and Justin is the guy in the middle. So, I mean, he's not asked to shoot 3-pointers at all. I think that's kind of, the way they play, their style of play is such where he's got so many shooters around him that he's probably got pretty much a red light as far as that's concerned. And I think,
Oh, you mean, so what you're saying is a coach actually designs an offense that actually works for its players.
Yeah.
That they have. Oh, okay.
And also, I think that up and down floor game suits him better, because of his athleticism, his ability to finish in transition. And listen, he's probably gotten better at that because he had issues with that last year, if you remember, with Justin, his ability to kind of finish off layups and transition. And if his 2-point percentage is up, I haven't watched a lot of Arkansas basketball, but I've watched enough to know that their style of play probably fits his strengths a little bit better in terms of that. But listen, this team, I think we're finding out, a lot of people complain about Devontae Green. A lot of people complain about Justin Smith. Last year's team was probably a tournament team, barely, but it was. But I like last year's team a lot better than I like this year's team in terms of their size, their ability to rebound, which, you don't have this year. I mean, you take a look at Indiana's rebounding margin this year. I mean, there was a lot, and you had Joey Brunks, who had a little more size when he was healthy last year. There was a lot more to like about last year's team than there is this year's team.
Yeah, you can say a lot about that comment, but there, yeah, I think that.
Well, what can you say about that? What can you say about that comment?
Well, because of personnel, for one thing, but absolutely, I agree with you. You have more options, more successful options, and now you don't. And that makes you limited, and that makes you a one-trick pony. And when you're a one-trick pony, which they are, all you have to do is double team Trayce Jackson-Davis, and voila, you've solved any problem you may have. When you had every team basically leaving here laughing at Indiana, said, well, we know exactly what they're going to do. And that's not so much the issue is how poorly they do it. That is the problem. It's how poorly Indiana does what they do. It's not that they know it's coming. It's that because there's a lot of times you know what's coming, but you can't stop it because they're just that good. Well, Indiana isn't good. Indiana does not execute well. So they are stopped time and again. And I'm not getting on that train. But
you know what teams have done during this 5-game losing streak? And you look at the style of teams. You look at Purdue. You look at Rutgers. You look at Michigan State. What they have done is they have completely taken Trayce Jackson-Davis off the offensive boards. Look at his offensive boards numbers. Look at I think he had 2 against Purdue, and Trayce gets a lot of baskets off putbacks. And if you keep him off the offensive boards and that energizes him, then, he really doesn't have that much. And it's really more of a struggle for him to score with those back to the basket than it is when he uses his athleticism to crash the board and get putbacks. And I think that's something that teams have figured out here late in the season. That's why Indiana struggled.
Do you think that Indiana couldn't use somebody hitting 65% of their 2-point shots with 4 years of experience on this team?
Like you said, do we know that in this offense he would do the same thing that he would do?
No, he would not. I promise you. No, I can guarantee you he would not. But that's the problem. Why does that not come? But the true issue is, why are you not able to get that out of that player? Why are you not able to get this out of that player? That's the issue. And yet you can get nothing out of no players. But yet other coaches instantly he's a second-team All-SEC player, for God's sake.
Yep.
So that says a lot right there. I mean, that's all you got to say. I'm not getting on this train because I'm sick and tired of talking about him. He's a waste of my energy.
And not to mention, too, with Justin Justin was arguably last year their most versatile and best perimeter defender as well. And he could get out and guard wings. He could, defend inside also. You're missing that aspect of his game as well.
Yep. You're missing a lot along with 2 empty scholarships. So there's a reason. People, yeah. All right. And then so Creighton reinstates McDermott for his, and it's something I'll talk with Mike too about, but he used the term plantation. We need everybody to stay on the plantation. Yeah. And I know what he's saying. The thing that strikes me, that's an odd word to use. I would never, that word I get the context completely what he's saying, but that particular word, and I don't know where he's from, if he's from the South, but that word is not one that would come to mind in that context. Now, what I did realize, though, is easily what did come to mind is another word that probably is not kosher to say anymore. It's probably was never kosher to say, really, but and that's reservation. You hear people say, he's off the reservation or on the reservation. Well, that's probably not a kosher term to use anymore either. And that's one that would have came to my mind.
Native Americans, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then again, that's why I'm saying that's not kosher anymore either. But the word, the choice of the word itself was just odd to me. But yeah, you would think that. But
well, I'll tell you.
I laugh because that's a name that you've heard bounced around as well as.
I'll tell you from living in Gainesville, Florida, for 15 years, the housing development or the area where a lot of the coaches live, Billy Donovan lived, Urban Meyer lived back in the day, a lot of successful teams, is called Hale Plantation. That's the name of the resort. And Warner Wolf, one of my favorite sportscasters growing up in New York, let's go to the videotape. I don't know if you remember him. He did some national stuff too. He got arrested for vandalizing a sign in Naples, a housing development that had the word plantation in it. So it's a very it can be a very offensive word, but it's commonly used in like these housing or golf course developments in the South.
Well, I think that in different regions of the country, there are terms that are different. A farm and a ranch. Okay, a farm and a ranch are two different things, but actually they're very similar depending on what part of the country you're in. If you're up in the Midwest and you've got cattle and you're running cattle everywhere, you're probably got a farm. I'm out on the farm. But if you're down in Texas or Oklahoma, it's the ranch. It's just it's a different name. So maybe that is a name that's more used in the South, but I understand it as the way you do. We got to take a break. Mike DeCourcy's going to mic up with us next. Michael joins us next. So looking forward to that. From the golf club here at Eagle Point Studios, looking for us. Hey, you can always hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline at 812-269-6367. But I think everyone else is getting more into doing it on the YouTube, which absolutely make sure you subscribe there, though, if you haven't. And what is it? Not comment, but give us a rating or something. I don't know if that helps you. I don't know all that crap. But we'll be back more with Kevin Brockway and Mike DeCourcy joining us next, right after this. Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda.
Yes, Mike is up next.
Mike is up next.
Mike is up next.
I did a column on, just Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Did Archie win?
No. It's probably going to be John Howard, but I made a case for Matt Painter, too, as a possibility. Or
no fucking way. It's not even close. Matt Painter's not close to any of those guys. He's got good recruits.
5 in a row. Well, that's part of it. Brad Underwood, would you consider him for Coach of the Year?
Would you consider him? But nobody. Juwan Howard is a fucking runaway.
Would you consider Chris Holtman?
Consider, but he's no one.
Low expectations.
Yeah. I would consider everybody for second place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a second place consideration for me. It is a runaway.
I would have considered Turgeon until last week. I mean, last week was a disaster for him, for Maryland.
To me, it's a race for second place. It's just not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, no one has a shot at catching Juwan Howard. To me, how they came back from COVID alone.
Yeah. They did kind of stumble that last week. They lost to Illinois and Michigan State, but
you know what? It's going to happen. It's the end of the season. They're a number one seed. They're not going to lose that.
Yeah.
No.
They lost Eli Brooks too, and Iowa lost Wieskamp on the last day.
For good.
Well, at least for the Big Ten tournament, I think they both had sprained ankle injuries or foot injuries. So.
Nobody cares about the Big Ten tournament.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about the Big Ten tournament. They don't want to play in the Big Ten tournament.
Can Indiana make a run in the Big Ten tournament?
No. Indiana
When was the
couldn't
last
make
time
a
they lost? Did they lose 6 in a row 2 years ago? I think they did, right? They lost 5 in a row and 6 in a row. It was right before it started.
Well,
Because they
Archie
lost
had
11
that one.
in 12, right?
Yeah, he had that one streak where he lost the whole season.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Michael DeCourcy.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are
Kevin,
you,
good
sir?
morning. I'm
Morning.
good.
Jim Coyle says nobody cares about the Big Ten tournament.
That's not what I said. He's talking about the guys playing in it. I said they don't want to play in it. I said they don't
the
care
guys
about
that got
playing in it.
hurt. Yeah, Eli Brooks and Weizke.
Yeah, they don't care about playing in that.
Lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
I needed someone to feed.
Oh, this is a great song.
I guess you're just what I needed.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Joined now by the great Michael DeCourcy. Sir, how are you?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
We are wonderful. Kevin here is, as always, it's getting warmer.
It is. It's my wife and I had a nice walk last night. 60 degrees, sunset. Can't beat that. It's been a while.
Yes, and I am looking forward to it. Just seeing people out, it's just it's exciting. It's just happiness because it's like we've been locked away in a vault, a time warp for a year and a half or something. It's crazy. Going back to the Big Ten tournament. Speaking of which, you talk about deja vu because this is where it all started for I guess all three of us. So were you there, Mike?
Well, I was in Chicago. That was I was in the studio on the night of the Indiana-Nebraska game and the Northwestern game, and it was myself and Tim Miles and John Beeline, and we were there, and it I still remember like the difference between the Saturday that represented the last Saturday of the regular season, and what a really happy atmosphere we had there that day, because it was such a great day of college basketball all across the country in the Big Ten. And then the difference in feeling when we were doing the Indiana-Nebraska game, and that was, of course, the night that Rudy Gobert tested positive, and everything started to change in the world and in the country, and certainly in college basketball. And I'll never forget that how much changed in the course of just 4 or 5 days. And I did not see that bus coming, man. It just hit us. It hit me hard. When it hit, I did not see it. I certainly was aware that the virus was out there and that it was a significant problem, but I never would have thought that this would be the result. And I'm happy that we're starting to see not just warmer weather, but some light on the opposite side of that circumstance.
Yeah, for me, it involves a colleague of yours. I remember arriving early to Banker's Life, probably 9:30 in the morning. Beautiful day. It was beautiful. The vendors were outside selling T-shirts. There wasn't a lot of takers, but there was not a lot going on. But I went to the press door to get through and turned away. And I'm like, what? And talked to your colleague, Rick Pizzo, outside, and I did a quick interview with him and about the shocking nature of it. But it's just, that's one of those days that it's stuck out in my mind. It's just, I don't want to compare it to 9/11 because 9/11 is such a revered day, but it's similar in that and way it's burned in my mind when something big is happening. You just didn't realize how big.
Yeah, Jim. When I was done with that studio appearance, and we finished up late that night, because we stayed at the studio an extra maybe hour or so because we thought that we might get word of a cancellation that night, and we're going to discuss it on the air, and it never came. And so I got on a plane the following morning, flew back to Indy, drove straight from the airport to Bankers Life, was in the building. And actually, in the press room, there was no awareness in the press room, and I gathered my stuff, my computer, and I started to walk out for, I believe it was I know it was Rutgers, and I believe they were playing Michigan, and walked out into the tunnel, and the players started to come back off the floor, and it seemed routine at the time because they go back in the locker room, they get their final instructions, and then they go back out, and I knew it would be different because there weren't going to be any fans there. And as they were coming in, Jacob Young, a terrific guard for the Scarlet Knights, there was like one of those stand-up signs. I don't know what it said. No food, no, no one admitted past this point, whatever it said. I should have written it down or whatever. And he like pounded it as he was walking past. And I thought, oh, that was odd. I mean, was he getting fired up for the game? I still didn't know until I went out into the arena and talked to a bunch of people for 5, 6, 7 minutes. And then finally, I don't know if they were aware and they thought I was aware or whether I just became, but finally it became known that the tournament was off and everything proceeded from there. And it's really invigorating to be sitting here on Tuesday knowing that that's not going to be the result this time, that we're going to have a champion hold up a trophy on early Sunday evening. And then a few minutes after that, we're going to get a bracket for the NCAA tournament. And then all of the college basketball world will be coming our way within the few days after that.
But don't jinx us, Mike. You're getting me scared now.
Nope. I mean, no. We can't keep doing this. I don't know how many people said back in October, November, December, when I was doing interviews, if we get a tournament. No. I mean, we're just like every other sport.
Yes.
College basketball is going to reach its natural conclusion. It may get there in an uncommon way. We won't have the same number of fans. It'll be different. There'll be masks on players and they'll be spaced out and all that stuff. It'll be different, but we're going to have, one shining moment. And I think I'm not big on gambling and stuff, but here's a prop bet for you. How many mask shots will there be in the one shining moment video? That's a good question. And who will be the first coach that shows up with the mask hanging down below his chin while he screams at somebody instead of over his face where it could actually do some good?
Yeah, chin strap. But I'm definitely looking forward to it, man. Getting excited. And the action. Not only that, the action is better than ever. I think this. I've been talking about how I think this is going to be a great. I'm talking about the NCAA tournament itself, but it's going to be a fantastic tournament. I think the teams, the thoughts of the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Gonzaga, all that is just so much. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Oh, I can't tell you. I mean, the feeling that I had on that Thursday, 4:12 p.m., something like that Thursday, the 12th. I still remembered. I'll remember it as long as I live. How empty it felt to know that March was going away, and I am thrilled that we are where we are today. Not that what we went through, but that we were able to make it through. I grieve for the 500,000 people we lost. It was awful. And I know I'm sitting here talking about college basketball being back in that circumstance, but life moves forward, and part of what makes life exciting for me is March, and I can't feel guilty about that. I can't feel guilty about the idea that I'm really thrilled that we're going to have this tournament. It's meant a ton to my life. It's brought me lots of of excitement and thrills and enjoyment and challenges. And I that's, I'm overjoyed that we're going to have those experiences again over the next 28 days.
Is it gonna, Mike?
You
Is it
and
gonna feel a little weird though, with the limited fans? The fact that to me, like, part of covering the NCAA tournament is just the whole energy of it. The fact that you walk down the street and you have these mass of people and all different fans from all over the country. And I guess we're still going to have that at a smaller scale, but how odd do you think that's going to be?
Well, one thing that illustrates how much the games mean more than anything else, Kevin, is think about it's noon on a Thursday, and I don't know. Let's say one of the teams that you were assigned is playing in that noon game. Think about what it's like in the building in that noon at noon. It's not full. You've got maybe 600, 800 fans from one team, maybe a couple thousand from the other if it's a big time program and it's reasonably proximate to where the site is. And then maybe you have another 3,000-4,000 tops. And so you're playing in a 20,000 seat building, and sometimes there's only 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people in it. And yet it still has that magic because you know what it means. The players know what it means. And maybe eventually, if that noon game, for instance, one year, the game I'm describing was Mercer versus Duke. And I was there, and I was sitting right in front of the Mercer fan section. And like I said, there were maybe 300 of them. But by the end of the game, by 2:00, now all of a sudden there are a lot of North Carolina fans who wandered into the building just because the tournament was in town, and now they're on Mercer's side, and now it's a different energy. But at that start, it still was the NCAA tournament, and so I think it'll be a little different. I think the feeling that we all have when we're around people is not what it ordinarily would be when we're in a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and what we certainly hope will be the case a year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, that we can just be around other people and be thrilled about that and not concerned about what it might mean for our health. I want to get back to that. But when you're sitting there and you're watching, what matters most remains that those 40 minutes of basketball and what they mean to the players involved and what they mean to the people who are invested in those teams as fans and what they mean to us as communicators in trying to convey the importance and the consequence of those games.
Yeah, I remember, Mike, I guess my example of that, as a fan, I was in the stands in Rupp Arena in 2002 with Indiana and Duke, and everybody was all of a sudden for Indiana because they were beating the juggernaut Duke, the defending undefeated champion and all that. But what killed me was there were a lot of UK fans there because it was in Rupp Arena, and these guys were sitting behind me. They were UK fans, and they were obviously cheering for Indiana. And I'm like, and I realized they were UK guys, and they explained it to me, and I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't matter to me. That would not have made any difference. I would have cared if Kentucky could have been playing the Russians for all I cared, and that would have made zero difference for me. But I just found that to be funny. It was fun. But yeah, absolutely. It is without question, to me, the greatest time of the year. And to not have that, man, that is such it just brings so many people are involved in it and watch it and enjoy it. And it's one of those things that I think we need to have. And I love it that it's back, and I can't wait. And I'm looking so forward to it, man. Absolutely.
It's going to be a terrific tournament. First of all, we've got really strong teams at the top. There's some Winthrops out there, maybe create a little magic along the way. Western Kentucky with Charles Bassey, maybe they upset some people. It's going to be fun, and it starts this week with the Big Ten tournament here in Indy. It starts this week with the outstanding teams that there are in this league, And there's a little bit of feistiness out there. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, my editor of the brackets at Fox Sports said, "Hey, what if you did a confidence meter for the number one seeds? How confident you are that each of the teams that you're currently projecting on the bracket will remain there on Selection Sunday night?" And I said, "Okay, it didn't take much work to do that. I just had to write down a few things." And Gonzaga 100%, Baylor 100%. They're not falling off that one line. Michigan 95%. I don't even know what scenario I'm covering for, but I felt like there was just enough out there that you had to leave the door open a little bit. And then Illinois, I put at 65%. And the reasoning for that is that if Illinois and Iowa play in the Big Ten semis, which means I think Iowa has to beat somebody like a Rutgers to get there. And then so that would be one tournament type win, not super high quality, but not bad. And then you would play Illinois, and you would have to win that game if you're Iowa. And then you would play in the championship game, and it might be against, say, a Michigan. And at that point, if all that happened, Iowa would have a remote chance of passing Illinois as a 1 seed. I'm still not sure they would get there, but if that scenario happened, they would have a chance. So I had to allow for that. So I left about a 35% chance that if that, giving that scenario a possibility, because it's not far from 50-50 who would win that game if it happens. And then, of course, Iowa would then have to then go on and win another game, and they have to win one before it. So I said 65% confidence in Illinois. You would not believe how much criticism, how much pushback I got from, and I'm like, do you people realize you're arguing about getting a 1 seed? You can't go any higher than this. But now apparently there's another level because they're not 100%. So there's another level, yes, indeed, beyond that. And it's still going on Twitter. They're still mad because they beat Michigan. So and of course there's the fact that Michigan won the Big Ten title with fewer victories than they have. So I think there's going to be an extra level of spiciness to the competition there, to the consequence of this particular tournament.
Well, and not only that, as I'm looking at it, Mike, I think that there are actually 3 Big Ten teams that could claim that second. I mean, Ohio State got kind of pushed down, but if they went back on a run, that would include having to knock off Michigan along the way. And if they were to win the Big Ten tournament, it'd be kind of hard to keep them off of that line from knocking Illinois off, not Michigan, but probably Illinois, I would think. I don't know.
Yeah, but they'd have to beat it. They would have to beat Michigan on the floor in order to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would have to beat them along the way yes. And that's what it would involve, a win over Michigan. So that would be very impressive. But it's going to be.
Not only that, but four games in 4 days. That's pretty hard to do, especially in this conference.
Oh, it is. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just saying I can see with how they got on a run. But yeah, it's great stuff to talk about. Looking forward to the games, though. Actually, that's what makes it the most fun.
It's not
the
unprecedented. Remember,
games.
It's not unprecedented to win 4 games in 4 days. Remember, Michigan did it after a plane crash. Remember that. So it is possible to accomplish that when you think about it. It would not be easy, especially with the top of the Big Ten being as challenging as it is this year. But if you were able to pull it off, it not only would it be involving beating a lot of really good teams, but it also would involve doing it as a greater percentage of your overall body of work than it ordinarily would be because of the shortened season.
Yep. Other stuff to talk about, Kansas and LSU. Les Miles, ties to both, ironically, and yet you look at the basketball coaches at both of those schools, so I don't think it's any irony that both of those schools are involved here. Finally, they cut ties yesterday, it looks like. I don't know how someone like that is allowed to continue, how that goes on, how that gets that far. It's just amazing to me that stuff gets that far along, because we're talking 2013 is when all this stuff that's happening is circling around, and it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and it's interesting. when athletic departments hire search firms to go about hiring coaches, it's often it's often put down to the idea of, well, we can vet these people. Well, now Kansas is hiring a search firm to replace Les Miles. Did they have one when they hired him? Because
Nope.
this didn't find the light of day until he'd been on the job for a while. So I'm not sure that that KU's decision to move in the direction of hiring a search firm is an indicator that everything is right there. I think you should be able to go ahead and be. Yeah, the old adage was that if you're an athletic director, you should have in your top right hand drawer the names of 5 people that you would hire for pretty much every coach, for every coaching position that you have in your athletic department. If you have a lacrosse team, then you should have 5 names for your next lacrosse coach if you need it. If you have, a golf team, same thing. And if you have football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball at certain places, the places that the sports that are really high level, high end, you should have that for sure. And I don't understand why so many athletic departments go in the direction of basically, offloading the most important element of their position onto an outside firm.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to, and I don't want to take it there, but the Archie Miller at Indiana. I don't know, that was kind of a one-track deal there. Similarly, I know in Kansas, I've read a lot about it. The complaint is their athletic director just really fast-tracked this. That he was just in love with this idea of getting Les Miles there, and just really pushed it through. And so they're paying the price for that now. But that's their problem to deal with. It just amazed me that kind of stuff is able to get through, because the information that's coming out of there is mind-boggling. But also the connection, LSU and Kansas, with both of their basketball programs also being under issue clouds right now. But LSU, Louisiana, is just a place where that's happened a lot. The football program under other cloud of other things under Coach Orgeron, and then of course Kansas basketball. They've got their issues with the Adidas stuff. So just a lot of stuff going on at these. And it's not just these 2 schools, I understand, but it's prevalent. But do you think there's a connection there, Mike, that these schools have already under clouds of this stuff, and so is it easier for that stuff to happen at these types of places?
Kevin will appreciate this. At certain schools, the number one responsibility of the basketball program is to not get in trouble and bring in NCAA investigators into town. The programs that are football first, football last, football in between, you want to win basketball games, but the number one thing is just don't get in trouble over this. It's not, that we want to win, but we don't need the NCAA sniffing around the edges of our football program while they happen to be here looking at hoops. And I think to an extent that's somewhat true about Kansas football. I mean, you're kind of almost fated to be embarrassed by the results. I mean, it's been so long since they've been even remotely competitive. So you're fated to be embarrassed by the results. But my goodness, don't be embarrassed by the behaviors of the people that you hire to run the program. It's not worth it. You're probably not winning a ton of games, but at least don't, we've already got issues in hoops relative to the Justice Department and then the NCAA following in on that. So why do we need a football program that not only loses double-digit games in a plurality of years at least, and then to have something like this added on to that? Not to mention the fact that, my goodness, I mean, if the charges are true, I mean, then it on its face, it's an awful thing.
Absolutely, and I hope not, because you hate to see all that stuff. But what's up next for you? What do you got coming out besides the bracketology everybody has to continue to follow?
I'm sorry, I missed you, Jim.
I said, what's coming up next for you, Mike? I know we've got the bracketology that we need to follow of yours, but what else is coming up that the fans need to know about?
Yes. Today at 11 a.m., Sporting News will release its Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Freshman of the Year, and it's All-America teams. We have three. We do 15 players, 5 players each, first, second, third team. Some really interesting history made with our Player of the Year. There's local interest involved. That's all I'll say about that. But 11 a.m. that's going to come out. So we're pretty proud of that. And then individually, I will be on Fox Sports telecasts of the Big East tournament Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'll be back with BTN on Sunday, subsequent to the bracket selection, breaking down where the Big Ten teams stand relative to their draws in the NCAA tournament. So busy week for me on that. Really excited about that package of player, coach of the year, etc. We put a lot of work into that, and that'll be released in an hour and 15 minutes.
All right.
We'll be looking for that, and I'll make sure we get that sent out, retweeted out, and make sure everybody catches you on Fox for the Big East, man. That's always some great basketball to watch. Do you get to go to New York for that, or are you doing it mobile?
No, I'll be here so that I can monitor everything. And remember, I was laughing with a television personality from, I think it was Houston yesterday, or maybe it was Philly. I did a couple of interviews, and I talked about Lenardi always is referred to as being in his bracket bunker. And I thought about it, and I said, technically, I have a bracket basement, so that I'll be there for a lot of the next week.
All right, live from the bracket basement, Mike DeCourcy joins us. Man, we appreciate you so much, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. The great Michael DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Up next, the incomparable Chronic Hoosier joins us, back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Welcome to your extraordinary.
He always has a delay that I don't understand. He's the only one. We lost Chronic.
The delay.
We lost Chronic.
Yeah, Chronic just left for some reason. I don't know why.
Uh-oh. Maybe he's
He was
watching
on-
spring football practice.
He joined at 9:40, even though I didn't tell him to, but he went ahead.
Yeah,
and joined.
I think he's been doing it at there he is. He's back.
Man, there he is.
He's back.
There we go.
Don't play the bitches back when we come back is the song. What's up, man?
Oh, not a thing. Limping to the finish line.
Limping, it's more like getting pushed over in a fucking wheelchair
Yeah, you ain't joking.
backwards. The thing is, I just don't know what, and and there are 28 people listening live on YouTube. So I really do. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this season. I honestly don't. And it's not worthy. It's becoming less and less worthy of conversation at the moment. Although that's all everybody wants to talk about.
No, and it's one of those where we've reached the point where it's just everybody's miserable. I mean, you watch the bench, none of the players look like they're having fun. The staff's got to be completely over this. Every single fan that I know is just done. I mean, for Christ's sake, I'm Chronic Hoosier. I didn't watch Saturday's game. Zero desire. I had some obligation. I had some obligations during the game. Didn't even bother to DVR it because I at this point, you know what's going to happen, and I have zero interest in watching the malaise, just the mediocrity, when the outcome's all but certain. You know, it's
What's
says a
amazing
lot.
about that game was, they got off to a 7-0 start, but they had about 2 or 3 open looks. They really could have gotten off to like a 13, 16 nothing start in that game.
Yep.
And just didn't take advantage of it. It was like, it was like they just didn't put up enough points in that run.
But see,
to really,
but we're saying that like we didn't say that in the game before and the year before and yada yada yada. That's the same old broken
No,
record.
that's the thing. It's they are 4 years into this thing. They're damn near exactly who they were when this whole experiment started. And
And something else I'll talk about when we come back because I talked about it earlier, but I think it's gigantic.
That's right. You get 0% APR financing on a brand new Honda from Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, Andy Moore Honda. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, where more means more selection, more savings.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Tuesday, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Don't forget, you can get $0 down, $185 a month on a 2020 Honda Civic lease. That's crazy. Get out there and get that. Chronic Hoosier joining us now. Chronic, how are you, man?
Oh, I am here, man. Back again for I guess it's tournament week here in the Big Ten. So
That's
I would say I'm excited to see how it goes, but I have a feeling we all know.
it's also the first day of spring football, Chronic, if you want to look on the bright side of things, right? Their first practice is this morning.
No, I mean football is you want to talk about two ships passing in completely opposite directions right now. Football is. I still had to pinch myself yesterday when I saw the news of the Tom Allen extension. We're a football school now. It's crazy to say, but it's pretty hard to dispute at this point. Indiana's investing previously unheard of sums into the football program, locking down Tom Allen for some time now, not just with the salary, but with the buyouts and the overall structure of it. We're poaching coaches out of the NFL to come back here and work with them. It's absolutely remarkable exactly where that program is as it stands. After basically, a lifetime of some disappointing existence.
And I to be honest with you, I don't think that people outside of Bloomington do not realize how truly remarkable what Tom Allen has done. And I'm not kidding, because he's done it at a place where for decades it was not able to be accomplished by coaches that had experience beyond years. But he did it in a way that no one else would have tried. No one else could have tried. And it has worked beyond any mind-boggling measure of success and continuing to go up. It's crazy. I don't know of another program that's in a league this tough that has been a cellar dweller as long as Indiana has, that has had this kind of sustaining what looks to be sustaining success. This is not a flash in the pan. This is building for the future. And that is it is truly freaking mind-boggling to me.
We long said, it's possible. There were examples, and they're far and few between. But you look at
Northwestern.
Well, even going back before that, look at Wisconsin before Barry Alvarez got there. Now they're a perennial, Big Ten West contender, conference champion. Northwestern did it. Purdue did it under Joe Tiller. And it obviously hasn't been as sustained or as durable as perhaps Wisconsin. I think that's probably the benchmark, but it is possible. It's just really, really difficult to do. And when you see it happen, it usually revolves around the hiring decisions at the head coach spot. And, for years we wondered, why couldn't Indiana be that program? Well, they tried going after the former pro coaches. They tried the up and comers. They never could quite get it right. Kevin Wilson, they thought they'd go after one of the top coordinators, and fit be damned. It was a brilliant offensive mind, but probably absolute wrong person for this particular spot. And then, fortuitously, they for an offense that was just unbelievable, they had woeful defense. They went out and found the best guy available there, who just happened to be, the next pick when Kevin Wilson was released to take the reins. And a lot of credit to Fred Glass for seeing that. And you can certainly criticize some of the decisions that have been made in that office involving some of the hires, but absolutely knocked that one out of the park. And, it looks like he's going to be with the Hoosiers for some time to come. And, more than anything, took a job that in most coaching circles was kind of considered a graveyard. When Kevin Wilson came here, I heard a story where Bob Stoops had told him, it's not your job to make them a national champion. It's just to make them a stepping stone rather than a gravestone. And, credit to him. Perhaps he fulfilled that to some degree, but now you have Tom Allen building something here that we've never seen before in Bloomington. And it's pretty remarkable, man. Even more so when you contrast it against where men's basketball is right now.
Yeah, because speaking of what, here's a great comment from Jennifer down in Evansville. I remember I would take half-a-day vacations to watch IU basketball in the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments. Those were fun days. Also, didn't watch Purdue beat down Saturday. That is watching the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's a passage for those of us who grew up through all this, through the 80s and all of that stuff. That's what you're used to. You're used to when the tournament starts, man. You got to get in there and start watching them because you're in it. And that's just not the case. And that level and length of apathy is just starting to weigh on people.
Oh, no, apathy is exactly the term, and it's probably the most dangerous thing that you can have infect your program. I saw some people give Scott Dolson some criticism when he was talking with AJ Guyton and remarked that he's glad people are angry, he's glad people are frustrated. At least that shows they still care. At least that shows they're still emotionally invested. When the apathy creeps in, that's a dangerous thing for a program, especially one like Indiana basketball. You're not just losing your existing fans, you're losing the seeds for the future. It's a bad spot to be right now. And, from a personal level, the online is just an absolutely miserable place right now. You really can't say anything or contribute anything without people just rage tweeting at you, just how frustrated they are, how over they are with the current state of Indiana basketball. And it's not just toxic, it's poisoning, because without really diving into the minds of the guys on the bench right now, what's that say? What image does that project to potential recruits, to kids that might be thinking about coming here, when everybody is just incredibly hostile towards everything involving the program? Who wants to come and play for a place like that? In a location that's already notorious for being under an extremely hot spotlight, for being under the microscope. Every single play, every single game is going to be scrutinized to the nth degree. It's a really, really, really bad place for Indiana basketball right now.
I think you can maybe sell, though, Chronic. You could be the one to turn it around. I think that's how you approach it in recruiting is, we've got the situation now. We're in a mess. Maybe immediate playing time, but you kind of sell on, look, you could be the guy that makes a difference and bring this program back to the glory that it had.
We've seen that before. We saw that with the movement, under Tom Crean. I'd say you look at Archie's 2018 recruiting class with Romeo and Finney and Demezi, as well as Jerome Hunter and Jake Forrester. That was clearly the pitch, particularly to the Indiana guys. Come be the change that you wish to see in the program. And it's a lot easier to sell when you don't have a whole lot of tape for coaches and for players and families to dissect. At this point, I would be hard pressed to imagine what they're pointing at when they're sitting in a living room and saying, "See, you could be that guy standing all by yourself in the corner that that doesn't get any looks."
Well, a good example of that, though, and it's kind of working in reverse here, though. We talked about earlier, Justin Smith transfers to Arkansas. He's second team all SEC, and the main reason that they're a ranked team and heading to the NCAA tournament. he's faring a lot better under Eric Musselman, under that structure. In the last 9 games, we had a stat he's shooting 65% from 2-point shots. I mean, just having a hell of a season, and as is Arkansas, and cohesive play goes a long way.
No, it does. And, it also highlights just how precarious of a position Archie inherited when he came here. And I got some grief last night for pointing out Indiana's record before Armand's injury and after. Obviously there's a lot of nuance in that decision, but, clearly when a team's, number one creator gets hurt, the team suffered because of that. No differently, this team suffered at least in depth, at least in talent, at least in leadership when you look at the departure of Justin Smith. And you can extrapolate that, all the way down the line. Would Indiana perhaps be a deeper team, a more talented team if Cliff Moore stuck? Possibly. You can say the same for Jake Forrester, Demezy Anderson. I mean, there were some misses or just some misalignments, even with the case of Justin Smith in those first 2 classes that created some pretty big holes in the roster as far as positions and depth, created some pretty big holes in the roster in terms of leadership. Those guys, Justin Smith would have been a senior this year. Cliff Moore would have been a senior this year. You would have had a much deeper junior class to help guide some of the freshmen along and provide depth, but also a lot of length. It is what it is. And, as we look back and try to figure out how you got here, there's dozens and dozens of different things that just didn't work out quite in Indiana's favor that led them to get to this point, where they are still largely non-competitive, coming to the close of year 4 of Archie's tenure. And it's just tough to really square up with the amount of resources that they've poured into the program. Archie's getting paid more than any other coach in this league besides Tom Izzo. And it's hard to argue that Indiana's getting a very solid return on investment, at least at this point after 4 years.
Yeah, hold on a second, Kevin. Connie, if you can hold it for a minute or two, we can jump to the next segment. We got to take a quick break, and if not, we'll have to do it next week. But we got to take a quick break. Back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Can you stay for a few minutes, or you got to go?
Nah, man, we're deader than hell right now.
Oh, perfect. Beginning of the month?
A little bit of that, a little bit of I don't know what's going on, man. Everything's so weird right now. It's
nice
so
weather.
Difficult. Nice weather.
People getting out for the first time.
Yeah, and that cuts both ways, man. It absolutely does, because especially after February is just such a miserable month. I look at my free time and how I'm allocating it, and it's generally not on things I'd prefer to be doing right now.
Zero down, $185.
Zero down.
Kevin, you need a new Honda.
I'm just about to pay off my current one, so I want to get another year or two. I want to get another year or two out of it.
No, it's time to get.
No.
Dude,
I don't want to deal with car payments for a couple of years.
This is where you get that return on investment. When you have that thing paid off free and clear, and every mile is just free to you, basically.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. I'm doing that with my phone right now. I wanted to trade my phone in, but I'm like, you know what? I don't have a payment on it. It's freaking, these things are $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 now. And I'm like, I get a new one every time they come out. I'm like, why?
I know. I'll have this sucker paid off by the fall, so I want to go at least a year without car payments. And then
did you go to football, Kevin? Did you go to football practice today?
No, because I'm on your show. I mean, did you want me to do a remote? I could have done a remote, I guess, from the parking lot, but that would have been kind of tricky.
We could have done that. It sucks that I can't go at all. So are you going tomorrow or Thursday?
No, because the Big Ten tournament, I'm going to get up early.
That's right. I got to be up there too. So, yeah.
You're going to Yeah.
It's funny, Chronic. We could go to practice, but we can't go to practice. We have to stand outside, kind of like the local people who stalk. Was that Cabby by the Green? That's kind of would come and stalk the practices. Now that has to be us. Now we have to stand outside, and we can take a. No, we can't take a picture. We can tweet that we're there, but we can't take any pictures.
Yeah, and they really don't like it. I learned in the first year they really don't like you tweeting there. So,
well, it depends on what you tweet. It depends on what you're tweeting there, Kevin.
I know,
Elephants
but I
and
mean,
giraffes,
if
lodging
you see
that is
something
out of
you want
this
to
world,
tweet it, if it's important,
world-class golfing, and a premier
You
resort
don't
experience
you don't
that is
understand.
waiting for
Free
you
media does
on
not work
your
here.
next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Not today, baby, because the sun is out here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, where you can get a 0 down lease on a Honda Civic right now. Better get out there. Chronic Hoosier still with us, and as we get into the spring, oh man, another thing, Chronic. No little 500 for the fans this year. They're still having it. A staple of Indiana University, a staple of Bloomington. It's going to happen at least, but no fans, and that really stinks.
You know, this is one of those really, really difficult compromises. I think that COVID's forced a lot of organizations to make, and it's, the world's greatest college weekend remains on hiatus, at least for the fans, at least for the community. This is generally a big, big deal for the entire town. I mean, we basically double our population, little 500 weekend. It's one of the most famous things in American colleges. At the end of the day, though, I really appreciate the fact that the university at least found a way to let the riders compete. This is one of those things where, if you live around the community year round, you see kids on bikes on every county and state road in this county and all those surrounding us. Just putting in unbelievable amount of work, unbelievable amount of sacrifices, training for that one afternoon in April. And, to have that taken away from them last year, fortunate to see that they're at least going to get a chance to compete this year. It's going to be broadcast, so friends and family will be able to follow it. But at least they get to ride, man. At least they get to go out and have an afternoon on the cinders. And then hopefully once we get to a better place from a public health standpoint, I hope that next year is a party like we've never seen, man.
Yeah, yesterday I was leaving to go out, and out where I live, there's a hill and several riders were coming up the hill, but they didn't look like students. They looked like elderly gentlemen, and there was a long-ass line of cars behind them. I'm like, those aren't students training for the Little Five. That looks like they're training for the 1956 version. But, yeah, you see a lot of bikers out. So, as a matter of fact, that reminds me, be careful wherever you are. Be safe and careful out there. When people out on the road and share the road with everybody and do all that. Other things that are happening in the spring as we get around, Chronic trying to get back to some regular life. It's been great to see people out of restaurants wherever you are, whether it's down in Evansville or Fort Wayne or Indianapolis or down in southern Indiana, Floyd, New Albany, all that area, Bloomington, Terre Haute, it doesn't matter. It's just great to see people out and about. It kind of lifts a little of the depression.
No, absolutely. And it's everybody makes a lot to do about fall in Bloomington and all the advertising and promotion that goes around it. For those that don't know, clearly summer is Bloomington's best season for a myriad of reasons. But I will, till the day I die, argue that spring trumps fall in Bloomington 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. It's just so nice to be able to feel that warmer air, to feel the sun on your face, to get outside and just go out and take part in all that Bloomington has to offer. We took the kids out last week, did a bike ride up and down the Beeline, had a wonderful dinner on the patio at the Irish Lion, and just absolutely relished every breath in it, just to be able to be back outside in this town, out of our homes, out and about, out in the community. Was really looking forward to the return of Indiana baseball this weekend, but looking at the forecast, Bart Kaufman Field's going to get its drainage system tested out from the looks of it. We've got showers pretty much all throughout the weekend, but they are after the first weekend of play, they find themselves tied for first in the Big Ten with a 4-game homestand versus the Nittany Lions. So great to have baseball back. We'll be interested to see if soccer can kind of get its footing after a rare loss, 1-0 loss at Northwestern.
To Northwestern, I was like, wow, I saw that. I was like, really? Man.
It's just some of those. That's the weird thing about soccer, man. Sometimes finding net can be really, really challenging. Defense remains stout. They allowed the first goal of the season, but one thing about Todd Yeagley, man, he's going to take every win, he's going to take every loss, and he's going to turn it into a teaching tool. And those guys are going to get better because of it. So excited to see them return to competition here after having one postponed last weekend. Women's soccer looking really good this year too. So there's a lot to be excited about. We haven't even mentioned the 9th-ranked Indiana women's basketball team, 2nd seed in the Big Ten tournament, looking for a real high seed line in the NC2As. There's a lot to be excited about outside the men's basketball program right now in Bloomington.
Yeah, and you mentioned women's soccer, Coach Benecom. I remember when he came here a couple of years ago. He came here from Duke, and women's soccer at Indiana was, let's be honest, it was just a program. And he's taken a program, and they're winning. They're ranked. Hell, they're ranked. They were, last I looked, they were a top 25 team already. That's pretty damn remarkable. So yeah, congratulations to him. You talked about baseball. They should be contending for the Big Ten title this year, 3-1 already. Soccer, that loss, I was like, what? Because I thought that they were going to be the best of the best. They had all that extra practice time. They've got the recruiting class that came in prior is incredible. And giving Yeagley that much more time, I'm like, holy crap, they're going to be nasty. But that loss surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I expect to see them find their footing. There's just too much talent not to. I mean, you talk about of any program in the nation that never has to rebuild, they simply reload. It's Indiana. But, the same thing you see across the college basketball universe in the era of one and dones. You could argue no coach has to deal with that as frequently as Todd Yeagley, at least as it relates to his primary contributors. They are constantly losing the best talent in the country to the professional league, and every year they find a way to get that chemistry back together and make it work. And unlike basketball, where you just got to build 5 guys on the floor at any given time, finding an 11 that works for you from top to bottom is extraordinarily challenging. And every year they seem to find a way to figure it out and to compete with the best teams in the country. And I fully expect them to get back on that track here in real short order.
And I've tried to avoid this question just because I think it's a moot question at this point. But there's just been it's in regards to basketball, so much talk about it and so much negativity. I don't know. I don't know whether anything is even going to happen or it can happen this year. And I know it's all everybody wants to talk about, but I really don't know what they can, if they will. We don't have the answers right now. So I've tried to avoid it as much as possible. It's almost impossible to do. But yeah, it's hard to ignore, but it's hard to talk about at the same time.
No, it is. It's a really difficult position for everybody involved right now. But the one thing I go back to in every decision is what's the opportunity cost? What is the cost of not exercising a different option, the next best option? And one of the big challenges in assessing that right now is, the financial position of athletics is maybe not as bad as what folks thought, considering how they're investing in football. But I would also contend that's something that's going to pay you back in spades. By far and away, Indiana's largest revenue earner on athletics. So not knowing what money may be offered, what money may be available to them to make a move, but probably more than anything, not knowing what your next best option is as far as available replacements. These are all things that happen through intermediaries and back channels, and it's never done in public. And at least teams that do it well are never really leaking much of that information out, no matter how rabid the fans seem to be in obtaining
Exactly.
it. And it's one of those where everything is kind of shrouded in secrecy and backroom conversations that almost nobody is ever privy to. And even the people I know that know a whole lot of things really have no idea what's going on with this right now. Only that it's a really, really difficult situation to be in. Just 4 years into Archie's tenure, having these conversations is generally not how blue bloods act. But unfortunately, here we are. As we said before the break, this is a program that's invested a whole lot of resources into the program pretty consistently for the last several years. And, it's pretty hard to argue that it's the performance, the outcomes have been on par with the investment. And at some point that's not sustainable. And, as we mentioned also, it's not producing the type of fan endearment that you expect with that degree of investment either. So something's got to give at some point. I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell everybody where it's going to shake out. Hell, I wish I could tell you, coherently what I think should be done. But it's just such a nuance. There's so much gray involved in it. The only thing I know, man, is I don't want to keep watching the basketball if the basketball is going to continue to be this bad. So one way or another, find a way to figure it out and get Indiana back to a competitive level in the Big Ten.
That's about as poignant as it can be put. Chronic, I can't thank you enough, man. Always a pleasure, brother. Appreciate you.
I always enjoy being back. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
There he is, the immortal words of Chronic Hoosier joining us. We got plenty more to talk about, me and Kevin, when we come back. We'll talk about all that. We'll talk about all that what we've laid out, what we've tried not to talk about. We'll get to your questions and your comments. Make sure you subscribe at YouTube, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And what do you rate us or whatever crap you do there? I don't know. Do all that stuff. But we appreciate that, because next year all of the post game shows or everything it's gonna be on YouTube, because I know a lot of people watch via Facebook for those post game shows, but it's gonna be over there next year. So please get moved over there and give me a follow on Twitter, please, at Jim Coyle ISB. And Kevin, we have to get his handle up there in a minute too, but we'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Back right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I can't hear you. What?
That's old. You ever listen to remember Mike and the Mad Dog back in the day when he used to go back after this?
Back after this.
Yeah, back after this.
What about what was the one that kind of went crazy? Mike Francesa. Yeah, he's worthless. He's worthless. He's no good. He's worthless.
Mad Dog is more the crazy guy. Yeah, Francis is more like.
He's great, man. He's got a 1.5 ERA. What are you talking about? He's getting 8 runs.
Oh yeah, I mean, I never
Mad
got
Dog
to listen to him.
Yeah. Mad Dog has that great intro where he goes, good afternoon, everybody. How are you today?
He's funny.
Oh, he's great. I love Mad Dog.
Francesa's a kind of a dork.
Yeah, he's a bloviator. He thinks like he's a know-it-all. He's called.
Well, I think he's half out of it now, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's kind of like lost. But that's what I grew up listening to in like the late '80s, early '90s. Was Mike and the Mad Dog. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, and back then they were pretty good. I think they just kind of lost touch with it. Francis is incredibly knowledgeable, like sports-wise, but his problem is he's like such a know-it-all. He and the younger audience now, they just hate him because they like to prove him wrong with the analytics, like everything he says, instead of
But yeah, Chronic just hit it right on the nail.
Yeah.
All these people, you have no idea how many messages I get a day. People telling me, hey, man, I got this buddy of mine. He's a big donor and yada, yada. And he's always right. Yeah, he said they've got the money raised and blah, blah, blah. And they're talking to other coaches. And I'm like, no. And oh yeah, Facebook. That's a great source of news there for people.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell everybody they should go to Facebook. If you want to know what's really happening, go to Facebook. Yeah, there's not a clown on there that knows what they're talking about.
It'll be Dulce's call, and
Well,
you think there'll be people on Dolson that
well, do you know who's on
Lodging
the
that
board of
is out of
trustees?
this world.
Ken Buckner,
World-class golfing and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick West Bay.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
People turn their heads and quickly look
look away.
like a newborn baby. It just happens every day.
Welcome back to the Golf Club.
You're red blood and I
want
want to
folks.
be
Any more Honda
right.
Bloomington? Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. A little karaoke going on here with Kevin Brockway. He thinks he's letting her get out, man.
Mick, baby.
Get out to Office Lounge. Welcome back. Talked about a lot of things today. A year ago, man, COVID changed us. It's just, man, walking. I remember walking. There's an alley right beside Banker's Life. And I remember walking or coming back out of the press deal, turning the corner. Just, wow. And there's Rick Pizzo. And I just, wow.
You know what?
Still.
I'm working on that story this week, and not just from the aspect of like looking back, but how it's changed things. And talking to Tom Allen, he was really good and really candid about, how they could use the Zoom technology moving forward, how they could practice in smaller groups, and how that could help. It's kind of changed. It could change the way people operate sports-wise in the future.
Well, it will, and for good and for bad. For us, it's been good and bad too. But the bad is now we're limited. They're not going to allow us around the players nearly as much at all. And there's a gigantic difference when you interview somebody in person than over Zoom. Trust me. It's just like being at a game, covering a game, being there and not. There's just things you see, feel, and get that you don't via TV. And it's just, it is what it is, but in that regards, it sucks because not having that human interaction makes this job different. Not impossible, but it's different, and I don't like it as well because
more challenging. Yeah, more challenging.
Absolutely more challenging, and it's it stinks. But and I think Indiana is going to be one of the schools that absolutely sticks with that, especially with basketball. They've enjoyed it, but Jennifer says the Office Lounge. We went there a lot when she was in college to play pool. She drank Molson on draft. Well, there you go.
Jennifer followed me on Twitter, and then she stopped following me. I must have done something to make her upset. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I would maybe I should unfollow you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tim's going to buy me a bike for one of my. It didn't break down. I just had to get a muffler repair on it. But what sucked is left it overnight. They called me. Oh, the part didn't come in. Oh, you kidding me? I had to go pick it up. It's still not fixed. So I'll have to go through all that trouble again. But hopefully it's not a day when stuff is breaking. But yeah. Yesterday there was an executive meeting of the board of trustees, I think. And that was, I didn't know if that was a regular scheduled meeting, but I think that at worst that was probably involving Tom Allen's contract, maybe ratifying that. I don't know, but who knows what it was about, but it's not about basketball. Let me just tell you, nothing is going to come out. Any rumor that you are seeing, not true. If you see somebody telling you that trustees have raised the money, or donors have raised the money and they're ready to buy him out, BS. That's BS.
Yeah.
Scott Dolson will lead the charge on whatever is going to happen, however they're going to deal with it. If that's something he needs, you don't need people to raise money. They just make a few phone calls. That's how that works. So all that stuff you're reading, you people are reading on Facebook, man, I can't even begin to tell you that jungle that is. That's a jungle of crap. I mean, there is probably 0.000.1% of truth on virtually everything you see on Facebook, because you've got a whole bunch of people that like to talk that don't have a clue as to what they're talking about. There's a phrase I love to use. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that goes for me. That goes for Kevin. We don't know what we don't know. There's information that I would certainly love to have, but I know I don't have it. I know I don't know it.
Yeah, and until you know, it's kind of like, for me, like my theory has always been on breaking stories. It's a 24-hour rule. It's very simple to someone to come out now and throw a dart on the board and say Archie Miller will be fired at the end of the season per this board. You know, if you're going to break something, it's got to happen within 24 hours. You don't throw something on a dartboard that says, oh well, they raised the money weeks ago and it's going to happen. I hate journalists that do that, and you see some that do that. And to me, it's like, if you're going to be reporting something, it's got to happen within 24 hours. And we've seen a lot of people get stories wrong, and they're still on the air. Diana Rossini, ESPN, last year reported that Doug Marrone was going to be fired. Guess what? She wasn't fired. But there's no accountability for it. None. These people don't get demoted or fired,
Well, but you see, you should be called out.
She's like on NFL Now. You know what I mean? They have her,
Well, I'm sure that was one where they get burned, where they get that from a really good source. Maybe that was a situation where it was going to happen and it changed. I don't know, but
but you gotta get it right. That doesn't make it any different. You gotta be
I'm
right.
Not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's why I'm saying I agree. That's why I'm saying
it can't just be one source. You got to confirm it with 3 or 4 or 5. That's my point.
I agree. That's why I'm saying
having like Diana Rossini's relative's friend or something, relative of Doug Marrone, and that's without checking with the organization and circling back. That's how you break a story.
That's like a Facebook. Yeah. She basically got it off of Facebook, but that's what I'm saying. It's almost pointless for us to really talk about it. We can talk about the negatives, but we've already done that. We know he's terrible. He's terrible at Indiana. He's terrible. He's not getting it done, not going to get it done. There's no question to that. He's out of his depth. He cannot coach at this level. None of that is a secret. He has a script, not scripts, a script that he's following that does not work. He's just short of fraudulent. He doesn't know how to actually coach the players. That's why there's no player development. He doesn't build a good staff. There's sorts of, I could go on, but these are things I've already said. His recruiting sucks. He's got the highest recruiting budget in college basketball, but all he can land is some talent from within the state. Seriously? Get out of here with that crap. So we know he sucks. I know he's leaving at some point. I just don't know when. That's the question. Is it going to be this year or next year? There's no way this guy stays. He's that terrible. This is the worst. This is probably, I can't say this with certainty because I haven't done the research of coaches 100 years back, but barring something that I don't know how this cannot be viewed as the absolute worst hire in Indiana athletics history. It will go down as a just gigantic bomb, a waste of up to $30 million. What has Indiana gotten in return for the $30 million it's going to cost for the Archie Miller experiment? And does Fred Glass, why does not he get held accountable for this? He's the guy that extended Crean first and then fired him. and then hired this guy.
He's got it, you know, like I said, you know, the amazing thing about Fred Glass is, you know, you can rip him apart for Archie, and that's fine and good. And men's basketball drives the engine here, but you got to give him credit for.
No, you don't, because he got lucky. No, you don't, because he got lucky. Dude, he got it. Kevin, he got a coach to take. He got a coach to take a Big Ten football coaching job for $1.8 million, the 63rd lowest coach in America. So, no, he got lucky. He got a guy that was here. He didn't have to do a coaching search. And he's like, you know what? There's nothing to lose here.
Yeah.
Nothing to lose.
What about Terry Morin? Give him credit for that.
That was a good hire. I give him, I actually, not just Terry Morin. I'll give him Terry Morin and Jeff Mercer, too.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good hire. But
again, it's not basketball. It's not what drives the engine, and I get it.
No,
and that's ultimately what matters the most at this school.
And it's so bad that those programs are so good. The baseball probably going to contend for a Big Ten championship. Soccer, of course, going to contend nationally like they are. The women's program, unprecedented success. But football, unprecedented success. But guess what? The depression caused by this basketball program is so great that it is lowering all of that. Hey, we got to take a break and go into the overtime period. If you're on radio, it's going to be the end of the road for you. We appreciate everybody. If you're down in Evansville or Southern Indiana, wherever you are, we appreciate you guys. Hope you go out and have yourselves a great day. Continue to wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Yeah, we got a little confrontational. I like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Where are you going? We're in overtime period. Sit down. Hey, we're still in overtime.
We're taking a little break, right? I got to wipe my nose a little bit.
He's got to wipe his nose. You still right? He doesn't. I guess he doesn't realize he's still alive, goofball. But I guess it doesn't matter. We can do that in the overtime period. Let me go over here. And guys, because I'm trying to. I know we could talk about Archie all day, every day for the rest of our lives, but there's just not a lot to. What do you? I mean, let's see. Now on his radio, I don't listen to him.
I listened to his radio show. Did you listen to it yesterday?
Hell no. Why would I listen to his same old bullshit? The same old bullshit. Seriously, it's the same old bullshit. I'm not listening to his crap. What is he going to say? Has he ever taken responsibility?
So this is going live on the
time.
So this is going. Wait, is this going live on the overtime on your podcast? You can curse and stuff, or no?
Yes. This
All
is.
right.
Yeah, we're not on radio, so I don't have to worry about.
Okay.
And there's certain curse words you can say on radio, but I just try not to. But and I don't want. I have a potty mouth, so I'm keeping it clean. What are you talking about? Jennifer was fired up early today, but she's already. There you go, your boy. Tim Dick Vitale ripped Sean Miller after the level 1 allegations are released. When was that just released? I thought that was already.
That was released a couple of days ago. Yep.
I mean, why are we surprised here? We're not. I mean, okay. I don't know that Sean Miller had to cheat. I think he got probably caught up in that because they seem to be doing okay. Because, and I'm saying this because I'm wondering if Archie's as bad a coach as he is, and he is a horrible, horrible coach, is Sean that bad?
Who goes to Penn State first, Sean or Archie?
I don't know who the hell's going to take Archie.
Yeah.
Who in the flip? Well, and who the fuck's gonna? Whoops, sorry about that one. Who's going to take Sean? He's coming off of violations, man. He's probably going to have He's probably going to have a show cause.
I'll tell you what. Did you watch the Penn State Maryland game? Because I was watching, obviously, to see whether. But those kids play hard for Jim Ferry, man. It's kind of like I don't know.
Jim Ferry's done a better job than Archie Miller, and I damn well meant to say that. God dang it! In the show,
Seth Lundy scored 30. He was great.
I was talking about
confidence.
Talking about Archie. Talking about them not having confidence. This is another thing. Yeah, I agree. None of them have confidence. You know why? I think playing for Archie Miller just sucks everything out of you, every bit of life out of you. They look flipping miserable. And I'm telling you, it is about playing for that jackass.
If you have a plan and it doesn't work, yeah, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to lose confidence. I think that's the thing. Like, you know what I mean? They've got to formulate. It's on them. I mean, the coaches are making the money. They have to formulate a plan that works, and then the players will be more confident. It's a chicken and an egg thing, you know?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about Bob Knight. He ran a motion offense that he basically invented, played a man-to-man defense. It was pretty simple, but extraordinarily effective. But do you know why? It was effective because the execution was as close to perfection as possible. They ran that stuff. They practiced it over and over and over till it was right. And the passes were crisp and the cuts were hard and all this. And now you watch an Archie Miller team, and it's like watching a group of sixth graders go through some freaking summer camp bullshit, learning how to, I don't know what. They're jogging to where they're supposed to be. They look like the Harlem Globetrotters running a damn weave out front for 15 seconds. And then they'll say, okay, we should try to get into our offense. And then about 5 seconds, it's time to force a shot up.
Was there a 20-hour-a-week practice back in the day of Bob Knight? That's what I'm wondering, because
no,
that's
but maybe there was.
I agree. No, well, I'm sure that it was broken, but no, they like I said, but Matt Painter alluded to that in his press conference on Saturday. It's the amount of work that you do outside that realm, and I think that's an issue too. And some of that's on the players. It's working on your game, and how much work are these guys putting in? We saw what after the Iowa game. We did see Anthony Leo putting in the extra shooting next morning after that long plane flight. I mean, that was encouraging, but do you keep that up this time of year? Or are these kids so dispirited now that they're not putting in the work that they were putting in?
But you know what, Kevin? Why do we need to see that? Why does people need to be shown that? Just do it. And I'm not putting this on Anthony. This is not about Anthony. He didn't take the picture. One of the IU people did.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the IU people just, you know what? Don't show it. Just do it. I don't want to hear. I don't want you. Don't be snapping media. It's like Todd says. You know what Indiana's known for? Being a weightlifting basketball team. All those pictures they like to put up with all the coach. Coach Cliff. All those. Who cares? Give me some pictures of wins on the damn floor. It's what I think fans want to see. And I don't need to see a picture of somebody in the damn gym. Just get their ass in the gym. Just have them in there. Just let them in there all the time. You said that should be an everyday occurrence. Hell, it's what I did as a kid, and I wasn't even a basketball player. I mean, that's just what you do. And I know they have other things, but man, that's
another aspect I think they need to look at: strength and conditioning, injury prevention. It seems like every year there's always injuries. There's always something that happens too. That's
this team like no other.
Yeah,
you're right. This team like no other. It's not.
TJD skips the Big Ten tournament.
I don't know. I think that's absolutely not, because
he's not that kind of kid, for one thing.
Yes, for one thing, he's not going to leave his team. I don't know that he's not coming back next year.
Exactly.
I don't know that he is. I don't know. I have no clue whether he's coming back or not. I know that
I couldn't see him transfer either. I think he's an Indiana kid. I think he wants to make it work here. He's frustrated, but he wants to make it. He does want to make it work here. And we talked to him. We talked to him after the Purdue game, and he was still saying the right things. I think he's got and I do think because Archie recruited him, he does have that. I know he was frustrated in that Michigan State game, but I do think he feels a certain sense of loyalty to Archie. But he probably wouldn't mind a coaching change either. I think he's just an Indiana kid that wants to stay in Indiana.
Let's see. Forrest talks about TJG physical. The game gets physical. Absolutely.
I agree. That's why his scoring is down. No offensive rebounds. He's not attacking the glass.
He's missing a lot. He's missing a lot of shots close in because he's either preparing for contact or focusing on the contact and not getting the shot to go down. But yeah, well, yes, and he needs to learn on how to score other than a slam. Too many misses from the edge. There you go. He has no perimeter game. That's why I know the NBA drafts on potential, as I should say. They don't draft on what you're doing now, but they have to see that you have the potential to shoot from 10, 12, 15 feet. He has shown zero potential to hit. Now, I don't know why. He's a good enough athlete and a basketball player. You would think that it just comes down to putting in the effort. I would just have to think that the effort has just not simply been put in. Like Armaan obviously put the effort in, and it showed. I'm going to, and TJD can't go to his right. Another thing that he did not work on. You got to blame Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, the coaching staff can get so much blame for that, but I'm going to put half of that on Trace Jackson Davis. You got to work your ass off. I think he thinks he's better than he is. I think he thinks his cruise ride to the NBA is a little easier than he thinks it's going to be. It's not. They're going to be there.
He's still averaging 19 and 8, but I think some of that was, but we saw when he faced the more physical teams in the Big Ten and he wasn't getting the putbacks, and he was doubled more. That's when his production has dipped of late.
But do you know why? I think another reason his stats are so high, Indiana doesn't have any help. The guards are non-existent for almost every game. So the only game that they have is Trace Jackson Davis. So he gets most of the opportunities, but he gets a ton of his points at the free throw line. He shoots more than anyone, as you can see, but he's only 66% from the line. It would be amazing to see how many points he's left on the board or on the floor just at the free throw line this year. How many games Indiana has left on the line at the free throw line? But that goes back. You can look back at Archie Miller's teams throughout history. They've never shot free throws well. Why that is? That tells me he does not know how to work with shooters, because obviously this team, he's never had a shooter on this team that has shot the ball well. And we know Anthony Leal can shoot, but he's not seeing many minutes. He gets in there, only he seems to get about one shot off. You can't get into a flow. If you miss that shot, you got to get into a rhythm. And there's nothing set up to get him shots. And it's just, I'm tired of talking about a broken record. That's what we're doing.
Remember the stat that I tweeted on Saturday, right? Purdue's freshman outscored Indiana's freshman 45-6. And
that's
the development of the freshmen, you look at what Purdue has done with Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey, and Newman and Gills they're redshirt freshmen. So they kind of don't count, but it was still mostly Edey and Ivey in that game versus what Indiana's freshmen where, where's development there? How come, and especially with guys banged up, how come some of these freshmen aren't, contributing more and helping more?
There's a stat for you. Penn State has one more Big Ten conference win than Indiana in the last 4 years. That should be the most embarrassing thing. And part of that came with an interim coach.
Yeah.
So I got to write that one down. Thanks a lot.
They're both
Shimator
7-12,
66.
so Indiana technically tied for 10th again for the second straight year in the league because Penn State, but Indiana, beat Penn State head to head, so that's why they got the 10 seed. And they could have been in the first weekend again this year very easily had Penn State one more game, or had Indiana dropped that overtime game to Penn State at early in the season in December at Assembly Hall, which they almost did.
That's a scary stat right there. Screw the strength coach, hire a shooting coach, put those damn pictures up. That's another thing. This staff, who on this staff is doing what? Tom Ostrom is a very nice guy, but what is he doing? What recruits is he bringing in? What the hell is he coaching? What is he doing?
Yeah.
Mike Roberts, what in the hell is he doing?
Ostrom brought in Race Thompson, though, who's a tough kid, who's a good player.
Yada. That's 4 damn years ago, 5 years ago. Who cares? What has he done since then? He brought in an average player who worked his ass off.
Yep.
Race is an average athlete who just worked his ass off, and everything you get from him is from him working his ass off. So he didn't bring Jack in.
Yeah.
So what in the hell are these guys doing? I mean, it is just, this is what makes you so angry, is because this idiot is being paid way more than he deserves, period. They're doing nothing, making zero changes. They have zero staff to do it. And it's like, it's just, it just makes you want to just scream. But the thing is, the questions are not allowed to be asked. Getting to him is difficult. But I promise you that as soon as the season ends, that is going to change. There's no way that he does not have to have a press conference, and there's no way that every freaking question is not going to be about him.
Yep.
I mean, that's the first thing I'm going to ask. Why? Why in the world? Why in the world should you be allowed to coach here again? Why would you not, after what Indiana has given you, just reach an agreement and walk away? You're embarrassing yourself and the school. I mean, he seriously is. I think he's damaging his future coaching. I mean, who can look at that, and unless you're Jeff Long at Kansas, that AD who's maybe the biggest moron of all, that's the guy that hired Les Miles, who basically did not look into him at all. I mean, it's unbelievable, Kevin.
Archie Miller will get another job. It just won't be at the Power 5 level. It'll be somewhere, back A10 level, and then he'll have to build it up again, I think, That would probably be my guess, is what will happen if things flame out here. I do think he will get one more year. And if he can convince Trey Jackson Davis to come back, then maybe, but he will definitely be coaching for his job next year. The buyout will be lower and more manageable, and, he'll be on the brink.
I agree with you. I think he does. I think he is going to be given another year. And I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about timing. It's about so many things that everybody keeps wanting. You have to have the guy, your replacement. You got to have him. You have to know you have the guy. You can't relieve Archie and then say, all right, now who are we going to get? No. It doesn't work that way. Not especially this time. Indiana cannot F this one up. They have got to do it right. Scott Dolson knows that. He knows Fred Glass screwed this to high heaven. But he got Scott this job, basically.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Fred Glass resigned when he did because he knew this was coming this year. You think it's a coincidence he resigned last year? Hell no. He saw the writing on the wall. This is Archie straight downhill. No, he saw it. But it's a tough position that Scott's in, and I agree. I think he gets another year because I just don't think Trace Jackson is going to leave, but he would if they changed coaches.
Do you think Scott Dolson, being a former Indiana basketball manager in the 1980s, understands or goes with the guy that has the Indiana ties? Because I know that you've debated that and whether that's, but does he go with the Steve Alford type? Does he go with Mike Woodson or someone of that nature?
He's going to damn sure look at it a way harder than anybody else has. Fred Glass did not even consider it, which is fine because I keep asking the question, who's out there that fits that bill? I don't want to hear Dane Fife because no, he does not fit the bill, but he's going to be Michigan State's next coach anyway. Doesn't matter. I don't want to hear Steve Alford because he does not fit the bill. Kids don't know who the hell he is, number one. Number two, his ceiling in 26 years as the head coach is reaching the Sweet 16, of which he has done 6 times. That is reaching the Sweet 16 once every 5 years. Is that what you want? It's not what I want. Who else? Who you got? Keep throwing them out. Why do people talk about projects?
UCLA team in 2014 was really good, and
what happened?
but they faced a Billy Donovan team that won 30 in a row. I mean, that was a pretty good team. I don't know. I think he could work here. I think Alford could work.
I'm not saying he couldn't. It's not for me. I don't think of toughness when I think of Steve Alford. But he's been out west for a long time. I tell you what I don't think of is success. He's never had a tournament run with any team. The Sweet 16 is it, man, in 26 years. Archie is horrible, and he made it to the freaking Elite Eight, and he's terrible. So, man, I don't see the IU guy being out there, number one. Number two, what's with the IU guy? What the hell does that even mean? Bob Knight was from Orrville, Ohio. He went to Ohio State. He then went to Army and then came to Indiana. So how much of an IU guy was Bob Knight until he became one? Terry Morin, she went to and played for frickin' Purdue.
Yep.
So what's this IU guy crap? You create and become the culture. Look at Tom Allen. He's from the state of Indiana, but he didn't go to school
Baptist,
here.
Yeah.
Marantha Baptist in Wisconsin, I think.
Yeah.
Off coaching everywhere else. He coached high school here, but not an IU guy.
Was Branch McCracken an IU guy or no?
I don't remember. That's a good question. But you become that. And would it be great? Yeah, it would be great. But Indiana has made so many stupid bad hires that I think that they've screwed that up. Steve Alford is someone that they will talk to. I guarantee it. I can't imagine Scott Dolson not talking to him because he's on that team. They have to. And I think that Steve Alford is going to get serious consideration because of that. And I mean serious consideration. He's going to get the most serious consideration that he's ever gotten. And I wish this would have been a great topic to talk about.
Nevada.
But actually, it's not. But I'm glad
Nevada,
we're
but they're not going to beat San Diego State in the Mountain West, so they're not going to go to the tournament this year. So I mean, he's got them above 500, but he doesn't have them.
In Alford's defense, he didn't coach at a school with the IU tradition that players want to come to. UCLA maybe, but that was not a good fit. Why was it not a good fit? It was a good fit. He was winning. He's getting recruits there. They didn't like him, though. The fans did not like him.
Yeah.
He still carries a lot of baggage from his time at Iowa with the rape situation with one of his players.
And then he went to New Mexico, and he had some success at New Mexico, right?
Yeah, at a smaller out of the way out west where nobody wins and where there's no pressure.
A little tradition, but yeah, it's not, And they have a lot of fans there at the pit, but
he went to a Power 5 big time school at UCLA and could not succeed. It's not my. Here's my thought. Why not hire a winner? Why not go after a winner?
Chris Beard, Nate Oates.
Well, the thing is, though, you can't get Chris Beard now, I don't think. He makes too damn much money. He's already making $4.1 million or 4.4 or whatever the hell it is. Nate Oates, they just re-signed him to an extension. Alabama was smart. So I don't have the answer. I'm the first one to tell you that. But I don't know what the resources are. I don't know what they have to actually what could they actually try to do? Maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe they go another year because a year from now, coaches that they have their eyes on right now, their buyouts go from big to nothing next year. It could be so much financial situation going on that you don't know what it is. Because
you don't take a chance on Rick Pitino or no?
No, that's a band. That's a Beeline. That's a John Beeline. That goes in there with the John Beeline. Yeah, he's a great coach. Yeah. Why? He's going to be here. He's 106 years old, man. It's not. You need a long-term solution. You can't turn around and do this again in 3 years. Let's see. Scott Drew. Yeah, that is one of the most viable, the only viable name financially in every way that I've heard is Scott Drew.
Valparaiso, Indiana. Coming home.
What are your thoughts on him?
Bryce Drew? No, I mean, rather Scott Drew rather would be a home run higher. Yeah, Bryce kind of struggled. I'm thinking Bryce when he was at Vandy, who I thought was going to be a really good coach and ended up flaming out there, couldn't recruit. But Scott Drew, I mean, listen, that would be as good as it gets. I mean, does he want to leave Baylor? He's not being paid a lot of money either. He's only being paid $2.7 million a year.
I know. That's why I'm saying. That's my whole point. He is actually the only financially viable coach.
McCracken was from Indiana, by the way. Played at IU coaching policy.
Oh, cool. That's so awesome. Thank you, Roger.
Something.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roger. You brought something to the show, yeah.
I did not know he played here. Damn, that's awesome.
I did not know that. That is some wild and wacky stuff.
I did not know that. Some wild and wacky stuff.
Like Dana Carvey.
Wait a minute. If he played here, that means it was back when IU sucked because he coached the 1940 team. The only reason Purdue has a winning record over IU is because like the first 30 years of college basketball, and that aggravates so much.
And the last 5 years.
Well, there is that. But even if you take the last 5 years, I think Indiana still, from like the 40s, Indiana still has a.
We have to get going.
There you go. Drew has Drew has had six, number 6. Come on. I mean, if you do it this year, that's the guy.
Yeah. That's
all I'm saying. He's the only. Well, they'll talk to Alfred though, because Alfred probably, I'm sure he has in every contract of his that Indiana's an automatic out. Yeah. There was one more that I saw that he threw up here. Here you go. Real question. If you ask Cam a question like that directly, will they allow you to return? Well, it's how you ask the question. I promise you. Trust me. I'm very, you have to be careful. You have to be careful. But I think that real questions, it's time for real questions. Both Kevin and I, is about 2 weeks ago now, Kevin was right before me and asked him about changing the starting lineup. And, he went on his blah, 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 blah crap. And then I had him next. And that was kind of what I was going to talk about. But I asked him about why we refuse to change the halftime lineup. I mean, if a player has a hot hand or a unit has a hot hand, why not move that into the second half? And it was more of the same old bullshit. Well, we look at that and yada, 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 but we never do it. So, yeah, I'm done with the softballs, man. But, yeah. Man, Kevin
Hunter would make an impact in the starting lineup, but I have proven to be wrong in that regard because he has done nothing in replacing.
That's because he has no player development. I don't want to hear this crap about his injuries. That's such bullshit about why you can't get any better. You one-legged, you can stand there and shoot. So no one gets better. There's no player development, but it's horrible. But yeah, we're done. The bit section.
We got football Zoom coming up.
Yep, got to get to that, man. We got to keep on working. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow to do it again. Hey, man, spread the word. Share this out. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible so we can get the show, the post-game show, moved over to YouTube. So if you don't subscribe, please do, and leave damn it, I keep forgetting the word for it. Say you like it. Yeah, liked it. That's what it is. Give us a follow on Twitter as well. Jim Coyle ISB, and forgot to get Kevin's up there. But you guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Keep up with the comments tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. And, of course, after the game on Thursday, Indiana plays at 6:30, so roughly around 8:40 probably. We'll be coming to you from the Tap on Mass Ave in Indianapolis, another Finney hospitality joint, but can't wait. Kevin may stop by.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's another place there, Kevin. It's the same group, so the Don Jogies. You guys go out and have yourselves a great day. We appreciate you so much. Keep wearing your mask. Do something nice for somebody. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.